Brothers and sisters in Christ, dear family, cousins, aunts, and uncles, come back to your place. We want to complete our policy reference work, and then we want to go to the program committee, and then we want to go to the governance and nominations committee, and then we have a few more items to pick up that we haven't finished after that. So we want to be able to, so let's, if you'll come to order, we'll see what has been worked on while we took a break, okay? Here we go. Here it comes. Who's going to?
Madam Moderator, we try to separate the proposal for main theme and for further consideration. And now it's clear all the proposals that we have done as alternatives to the explication and understanding of the theme. And the first one is the main theme as it was proposed by the committee. The explications for other consideration does not mean or meant that we change the biblical passage.
Okay, this is before us now. Microphone 2.
Yeah, the A and B, the love of Christ moves us, does not reflect the biblical passage. The moves us is not adequate as a translation of the Greek, and that passage will immediately be open to objection from those who know Scripture as an unjustified alteration of a biblical text. We might not like the text, we might not like the way Paul writes, but that is how he writes, and it's not within our ambit to change that. And I could not support A and B phrased as they are.
We can change. This is just a proposal. For example, we can say for A, the love of Christ reconcile and unite us, and then you cross out the move.
Then it isn't. Then it's not based on 2 Corinthians 5:14 anymore. The point about A is good. If it was compels, it would be good because it would capture very nicely the argumentation of St. Paul in 2 Corinthians 5, which is about a ministry of reconciliation, and it roots our whole purpose in the scriptural text, in Paul, in our calling to be ambassadors for Christ as unifiers of the church. So A with compels works well.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah?
All right, microphone 1.
Thank you, moderator. I'm now thinking from the German context, and I have to say, I know that's biblical and that we don't change biblical words, but sometimes we have really to work on translation that are communicatable in a wider society. And the love of Christ compels us. If you take the right word, we have in Germany the notion also of force, of pressure, of stress, if I take all the translations I got. And so if we decide for this theme, we in the German context need the freedom to really translate it in a free way, and we probably will use the word move in German, or to challenge or something like this. But to announce the assembly with the love of God compels us, for the German speaking, drängt us, treibt uns an. This is not possible, I think, from my contextual point of view. So ask to consider this.
All right, microphone 3.
Should I go on with the nature and style now? No.
All right. Yeah. I'm reminding you that we still have to do the program committee and the governance and nominations committee, and we still have to be out of it. So we're going to have to end this in the message. So we need to come to a decision making on this piece. General Secretary.
Moderator, is the understanding of the Assembly Planning Committee proposal, as it is discussed by the Policy Reference Committee, now to be understood so that there is only one alternative for the theme. The love of Christ compels us, and that the committee then proposes that in the APC, continued work based on the decision about the theme can develop further sub-themes that are connected. Then my understanding of the discussion now is that actually there is a consensus in the room about the main theme, at least very close to this consensus. And if so, then I propose that the discussion is coming to an end in this room about the main theme, and the APC has the work to follow up.
All right, is there consensus around this recommendation? All right, thank you. Now, there are those of you still at the microphone. Do you just have to say something, or we can move on now because we did this? Move on to the next item. All right, you're ready? You're talking about the next item?
No, I have a quick
microphone two.
I have a quick question to the APC, if possible, Madam Moderator, about this same topic.
Can you just follow up and ask the question later rather than in the plenary session? Okay, go ahead.
So I can appreciate that translation can be challenging, and obviously each language that it will be translated into will have to take into consideration all the details of their language and all the culturally misunderstandable challenges. But in English, and we're only talking about English now, had the APC any worries that it could culturally be misunderstood in the English language? That's my question. And if we could clarify that, we would know why this was a problem and tackle it in that sense. Thank you.
Microphone one. I don't.
Thank you, moderator. I have two implications when we choose this topic that I would like to be noted at least. Number one is when we pick up this theme of love, we have to pay attention to the interreligious and interfaith dimension of it. And that is to say, there was a huge discourse on a common word between you and us, between the Muslim community, coming from the Muslim community to us, and we were discussing the fact that the highest commandment is love your God and love your neighbor. That I think works quite well as an opening approach to the interfaith dialogue. Number two. When we, from my tradition, speaking from historic peace churches, we would never discuss this topic, especially when it's the love of Christ, without immediately thinking of Matthew 5, love your enemy. So I want that to be noted, that definitely needs to be then take a large space of that whole discussion. Number three, this is now I would raise my blue card and I would say I'm not in favor of the topic, the love of Christ compels us as a motto. But I'm willing, if the whole house is in favor of it, I'm willing to stand aside. This is my blue card, will not be a veto card. But I want to consider also that it is quite risky at this moment when we are all tired, when we are all frustrated with what we're doing here at the moment, then to take a quick decision so that we make it back to dinner. I'm hesitant because, and I want to warn the House actually a bit about that, because the motto really has so many dimensions and so many implications. Especially now thinking as someone who comes from the venue place. How will that resonate in the German media? How will that resonate with the German churches? How will that resonate beyond ourselves? So I have a lot of questions. Are we speaking too much to ourselves? Is it, and so on. So I simply want to say, we also one other opportunity or possibility would be that we, as we did before the Harare Assembly, we did postal votes. So if there are more people who would hesitate now to say, well, maybe we should not rush on this very, very important topic, we can also ask a specific group of people, I don't have a proposal at this moment, to continue to work on this because it is so important, and then would allow ourselves to have a postal vote at a later stage. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
Yes, moderator. Tyrone Pitts, Progressive National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated. I have the similar concern that Fernando has. My concern is the issue of compels as a strong element of this particular theme. But more than that, I struggle with the issue of justice. I don't feel that within this construct, primarily because I know that in South Africa and other places, there are really some real struggles over reconciliation at this point, what it means and how we deal with it. And within our context in the United States, the whole issue of justice as a part of human community is something that I'd like to see in the theme. So I would really like to see us postpone this and follow up, as Fernando has said, to have another group look at it. Because if we press it forward now, we may make a decision that all of us may not be able to live with long term.
Yeah. Let us, just to support the moderator, there is a proposal on the floor that so that we don't stress ourselves, would it be helpful as we discern? We've received 3 proposals from the Assembly Planning Committee that the Central Committee authorizes the Executive Committee to do some further reflection and then send you not less or no more than, or if one, no more than 2 proposals, which the rest of the Central Committee would actually give us direction forward. And the Executive Committee means the Executive Committee of November.
To send before the executive, not after
Yeah.
the executive.
Yeah, during the executive, it has to be
No,
discussed.
to send their comments before the executive.
Hello?
And it is the
Hello?
executive.
We want to know what you are saying there.
What I'm saying, let me test the mind of the House again. We have had, because of the time constraint, so that we do not push ourselves, that the APC gave us 3 options. The policy reference group has given us an option and possible sub-themes. That the executive committee deliberates on this seriously in November, sends you proposals that you can then comment on and vote on. Yeah.
Clarification, please.
Well, microphone 4. Let microphone 4 go first, and then you can. Go ahead, microphone 4.
Yes, thank you, moderator. I would totally support that what Fernando said, and I agree with the suggestion made by our moderator, but I would like to ask the executive committee in this case to take a couple of issues, serious issues, into consideration. First of all, this is not a good translation of the statement. I checked very quickly a couple of English translations, and there are many other options. Second, this word compels would create problems in translation into other languages, not only into German. I cannot find an appropriate translation into Arabic without having questions raised among Muslims regarding this statement. And this leads me to emphasize the issue of interreligious dialogue and to find ways of expression which would not create confusion among in other religious communities. And the statement as such is somehow ambiguous. So what do we mean by the love of Christ? It's Christ's love to us, or it's our love? So it needs a lot of clarification. I would recommend another statement which is clear and wouldn't create troubles in translation as well.
Thank you. All right, microphone 1.
Number 1, I think is very wise the recommendation of our Secretary General. Now, it's very important to get the theme by the end of this year. Number 3, we can authorize now our secretary to come in contact with the commissioners who have the responsibility to work more, but to start working from after there is not still in the spirit of the human infallibility here. So he, from Monday, he can start working. So when we will be in Uppsala later in November to approve it, we contact with the members of the Central Committee. So by the end of the year, to have the theme. It's very important to get the theme by the end of the year. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The proposal on the floor is that we postpone this decision, we get more comments from you, but that the executive committee be authorized by you to make the decision and share with you also for your comments.
Then we need to finish this.
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Make a
Yeah, yes.
Yes, but this needs one clarification. The decision that the executive committee would take would be on minimized alternatives like 2. And the final decision has to be taken by the Central Committee.
Right.
On a postal vote.
Yes.
All right,
So
number 4 still wants a
Can we
word at
test
the
that?
microphone.
Can we test that, please?
Yes, number 4 still has a blue card up.
Can we test that proposal? Thank you.
Microphone 4.
Sarah Moore, the United Reformed Church, speaking in English. I can see why the suggestion that we have the executive committee consider the proposals and come up with recommendations which are put to Central Committee in a 2-option postal vote. My concern with that is that my tradition, we do not do postal votes. I can live with the concept of a postal vote if that's what Central Committee consider to be the best option, but I'm really mindful that my tradition is that we make these kinds of decisions together by discerning the mind of Christ, strengthened by the Holy Spirit. And so I would actually be far more comfortable with the suggestion that the executive committee simply consider the options and make a decision drawing on the discussion which we've had here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah.
Could you put also a deadline that our observations, comments, I don't know, we can send by 20 of October, and then because the staff they have to put together and then to present to the executive committee. We have executive committee begins the 30th of October. Then the staff needs at least 10 days or even more. If we can put a deadline, the 20th of October? 15. Oh, 15, right. 15 of October.
October 15?
15 of October to send the comments. To whom? To whom? To General Secretary.
To the General Secretary.
To General Secretary.
Microphone 4.
No, close the discussion.
Yes, sir. All right.
Jan.
Yeah. Yes. What?
Sorry, Jan.
Is this about sending it by October 15th?
Yes, I think it's too late because after this discussion, and I think it's a good discussion, I expect many proposals.
You want them soon.
You should have time. You should have time to collect them and balance them, and maybe 1st of October is enough for us.
All right, thank you. We will endeavor to do that. Okay, we're going to move on to the next point, and microphone 3 is on the next agenda item. Then go ahead.
Thank you, moderator.
You've been wanting to talk about this for a long time.
Selina of Sweden. In the Assembly Planning Committee report, they asked the Central Committee to consider and decide upon the recommendation on the nature and style of the Assembly. Neither the Finance Committee nor the Policy Reference have any recommendations on the length of the Assembly. And I recall the Finance report from the Busan Assembly, where it said that we need to have new structure of the General Assembly, including reduction of the length. And also in this Finance Committee report, they put tension on this. So I wonder where is this going to be decided? And also that if we approve, I think it's number 4, now 5, I don't know, about the free weekend to make sure that this doesn't interfere with the thing of reducing the assembly.
Thank you. Thanks for those comments. And we did discuss it in the other committee too, and want to make sure that it is the right attention is given to it. Microphone 3.
Thank you, moderator. My comment is on B6. I understand that there is Assembly Worship Committee in place, or it will be. And it seems to me that if we just reduce to this recommendation, we may tie the hands and deprive the Assembly Worship Committee of liberty to plan the worship committee of the Assembly. I'll call the attention that this is a key moment at any assembly, and if we reduce to this question of be held according to different traditions, perhaps this is not the best way to proceed forward. Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Of course, you said that the worship committee to work, you said free. The worship committee does not work free. They have some rules established by the special commission, and now the custom of that we use, the prayer service, the service of prayer, interconfessional or interconfessional. This, I think, is to be considered by or to delete. It's better to delete because it will be confused the worship committee. The worship committee knows how to do its work. I propose to delete. I have also another, the number 4. You say that space allowed for rest with a free week. What do you mean free? Just 1 day? You want 1 day or to have space?
Space.
But he says Saturday, Sunday, not meetings.
No,
When you say weekend, what do you mean?
The free day can be during the weekend so that it doesn't disturb business. But we can still take Saturday.
Okay, okay. To take into account to have a free space, yes.
We know we cannot have the weekend.
Like we had in Busan.
Yeah. Then the question that was asked about duration, we received the whole report. The only things we thought we could comment on are the ones we have commented on. The rest we received with appreciation. We thought it was not for us to work on that.
But the duration was mentioned in the APC. I don't have the report here. The APC report. There is a proposal of APC report about the duration.
Shortening it by a day.
At least to reduce 1 day. Also for financial reasons. We have the report.
Moderator, it's just to say that the Policy Reference Committee accepted the recommendations of the APC and only made additional comments in point B.
Okay.
So all the other things which you have put in place is accepted.
In the report.
In the report, including the reduction if needed, etc.
Okay.
So we haven't touched that.
Okay, thank you.
Moderator, I try to understand what you have decided for us who are to follow up in the next weeks and months and make this process. I thank you for the clarity about the process related to the theme. My intervention was just to make clear what kind of decision we make, and now there is a clear decision, so I thank you for that. It looks like the issue about how many dates and the details in the program related to the weekend must have the same kind of procedure.
Yes.
It's impossible to make this decision just now, in my view, based on what is proposed and the time limit. So my proposal is that you understand, that we understand the role of the staff and the executive committee to prepare these decisions now as much as possible for the upcoming executive committee, and involve you to make the final decision about the formulation of the theme by a post vote. But about these things related to the dates, I can see how that can be brought to a vote. That has to be decided by the executive committee in consultation with the host.
Okay, we've now gone through all of the items and the pieces around the Assembly Planning Committee. If you move on from the section on the Assembly Planning Committee, you indicate with your cards. All right, thank you. And now we're ready to look at the process for the WCC gender policy.
That the draft of the gender study document be sent to the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration.
For what? To do what? To do what? To review what? For further consideration?
To review and take it, action.
To further, okay, to review.
That duplication of issues should be avoided. We try to abridge the things without writing long documents on that. And finally, that this document be monitored in terms of taking us forward towards greater unity. The focus is on unity to achieve.
All right, this one is now before you. If you're ready to receive this, will you show the card? Okay, thank you. Now the working group on the Roman Catholic Church.
That the joint working group will not focus on themes already on the agenda of the Faith and Order Commission. 2, that the focus is on issues responding to immediate concerns such as migration, peace building, and climate justice.
Okay, this is before you. All right, if you support this, will you show the cards? Microphone 3, right, go to microphone 3.
Anders Weiryd, Church of Sweden. Is it really up to us as a central committee to decide what a joint working group is to bring up? I mean, there are two partners in this. Is this not something that we leave to the joint working group? They have to see what is productive and meaningful.
Thank you for that question. We were informed that these are the kinds of ways the joint group is working towards. And therefore, we sort of added things in like peace building and climate change, which were felt by members of the joint working group to be a good thing to add. So it is taking forward what the joint working group is doing and adding strength through it through this. Now, of course, one can take a decision to say, we don't want it that way. We want to give them flexibility enough to do this on their own and to decide, but that's up to the Central Committee to suggest that. But this was the input of members who are working in the joint working group to urge us to mention these concerns in order to take it forward.
Moreover, I believe it's not a new thing for a committee to refer something to another committee that will work on it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And I think the last one does not have a recommendation as such. So we end with this.
And so as you see, yeah, the report of the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration, the committee discussed it and recommendations were forwarded to them to go to the Central Committee for reception. So thank you. All right. Now, you've received the report of the Policy Reference Committee. Thank you. Praise God. Thanks be to God. And thank you, committee. Thank you, all of you, for working so hard. Let's go to program. Will the folks from the program committee come forward and lead us through the report of the program committee? And if you will look up your documents so that you can have your documents before you as we consider the report of the program committee.
Dear Madam Moderator, dear brothers and sisters, It's an honor for me to present the work of the program committee here on the plenary. We had to work through many and comprehensive documents in a very short time. So I can only thank everyone in the program committee for excellent, focused, patient, and kind work together. Please stand for some seconds to be visible. Thank you so much. I also have to thank the two Deputy General Secretaries, Professor Isabel Piri and Professor Father Johann Sauker, who guided us well, as also the whole staff. Also, I'm very grateful for the hard work and dedication of our two rapporteurs, Dr. Henriette Hutter-Barat-Lebang and Professor Dr. Jerry Pillay. Thank you. Now I would like to invite our rapporteur, Jerry Pillay, to propose the report of the program committee.
Moderator, the report has been circulated. The report is structured in such a way that we give firstly a summary of the documents that we received, and that is not new information. It was given to the Central Committee at the beginning of our meeting. And the second step in the process of reporting, we noted all the comments that came from the program committee members, and we tried to list that, and that is purely really for information, not for discussion unless people want to add or seek clarity. But that information is then sent in our recommendation to the various places through the Central Committee. So if we can bear that mind in a structure in mind, that will actually help us to move quite fast. Moderator, I'll go firstly to Gen 01 with regards to the moderator's address. Our proposal there was simple. The program committee recommends that the Central Committee receive the moderator's address with appreciation.
Show your cards. Thank you.
As for the second report of the General Secretary, Moderator, I'm not quite sure whether you want me to read the notes or just go to the proposal.
Just the recommendations.
That will save us time. Thank you. So the first recommendation in that category then is that the Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee, A, noting the above comments, recommend the acceptance of the report of the General Secretary with appreciation. B, request the Executive Committee to do further reflection on the theological and practical implications of the use of the language of love in relation to the pilgrimage of justice and peace. And C, request the Central Committee to discern about the future development of the Global Christian Forum in relation to the WCC.
Okay, thank you. This is before you. Will you show your cards? Oh, microphone 3. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Concerning about the F, I have a question. By the last sentence, issue statements engage dialogue on burning global issues. Does that mean that they are permitted to issue statements on ecumenical issues? Why you are only putting it by this phrasing? I hope that it will be changed, that all kind of statements is out of their job description. My second point is the word discipline. I think that we can use another word of discipline than this one, because it was very clear in the upstairs that it is not another organization. It's, as you describe it, put any word as you like. I don't have a suggestion, but I think that those two words must be changed. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't pick up which word you're talking about.
I am talking about number F.
Yes.
The last word.
Yeah, on
from
burning
which
global
does not
issues.
issue statements, but engages dialogues on burning global issues.
That is what the the Global Christian Forum does.
What kind of
Their
burning
task
global
is
issues?
not to, moderator through you, the task is not to actually, they seek not to actually issue statements on things, but to encourage dialogue.
What kind of burning? My question is, what is the burning global issues which they are permitted to do?
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's just global issues. Yeah.
I would just make a simple proposal to delete the last phrase. That's not the issue here at the point, at this moment. You can simply say about a platform and a forum which does not issue statements, period. Delete the rest. That's just misleading.
So the suggestion is you put a period after does not issue statements, period. Okay.
We're happy with that.
All right, Your Eminence, Metropolitan Gennadius.
For A, we repeat twice recommend. Then the most simple way to present is the program committee recommends that the Central Committee, A, to receive the report of the General Secretary with thanks and appreciation.
Well, the comments are important, Moderator, because that's the task of what...
This is a recommendation. We know that there are comments above, but here it's not necessary to note in the above comments. The Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee to receive the report of the General Secretary with thanks and appreciation. To use the common language that we use also for the other reports. To receive the report of the General Secretary with thanks and appreciation.
Moderator, we're not going to fuss over that. That's pretty easy for us. But I do think, in terms of the structure of operation, though, it's questionable. Because when we send things to a particular committee, whatever the committee is, we want to have them to have important discussions. And what comes out of that needs to be reported somewhere. So I do not see the logic of that, but I'm willing to go with that.
Microphone 2.
In his sermon on our anniversary, His Holiness Bartholomeos, he spoke 3 times that we have to work for the unity of the Christians. So the Global Christian Forum give us another one opportunity how to come in contact with all the Christians who are not members of the WCC. And it's very important that Bartholomeus use the term for divisions of the Christians, because we cannot accept that there is divided church, because a divided church risk, that means there is not the reality of the fullness of the soteriology. We need somebody else to come to over the ministry of salvation. So he introduced the right also terminology, so we can understand the importance of the Global Christian Forum, how to bring with us the millions of the Christians who are not members of the WCC, and to work together to protect the humanity and the planet. Thank you.
All right, microphone 2.
So sorry. Juntan, as far as I can see, we're voting on the recommendations A, B, and C. We're not voting on A through F. I think we can save ourselves some time.
That's correct. Thank you. All right, microphone 1. Then we're going to go ahead and vote after again. Go ahead, microphone 1.
I would suggest the following. For F, it was noted that the Global Christian Forum is not another organization but a platform and forum which does not issue statements but invites to dialogue all Christian traditions. That's very concrete what it does. Otherwise, if we say what it does not, we have to say what it does.
All right, her says, did you understand her recommendation that in F you say but does invite dialogue? Mm-hmm.
There is already between the Council and the Global Christian Forum a kind of mutual, dialogue. And there is also a report on that. Now, the question here is to continue this discernment between the WCC and the Global Christian Forum. And I make this following proposal. The C, request the Central Committee to mandate the Executive Committee to discern about the future development of the Global Christian Forum in relation to WCC, and a report to be presented to the Central Committee in 2020.
Okay, did you hear that? All right, Anne, you want to speak to that?
I just think that it belongs to the Central Committee, in a plenary maybe, have a plenary at the next meeting, not executive committee. I don't understand.
No, you didn't understand my logic, that these 2 years, they are not Central Committee. Then somebody has to follow the discernment of the development of the Christian Forum. And this is the executives from here up to 20. And in the Central Committee 2020 will be a report of the 2 years activities or developments between WCC and the Global Christian Forum. This is my
comment.
This is my proposal.
Members of Central Committee, we only have a few minutes, then the interpreters will leave. If we want to communicate with each other, let us move, please.
All right, so what we have before us are the recommendations as you see them. Now, if you're ready to receive these recommendations, will you show your cards?
Yeah, but there's no change to my
Thank you.
recommendation number C.
What you suggest?
Yeah, but it's not there. I will be.
They're looking for the wording. Can you read it again?
So now as we move on to item 3 and now begin the next, let me be clear that even though you may have thoughts about the comments that the committee did, please do not come to the microphone to discuss the comments of the committee. We're only doing our action on the recommendations from the committee. The comments were comments in the committee. So we'll just limit your time at the microphone to the recommendations. Microphone 3.
With your proposal, and it is not constitutional. I have the right to discuss all the report of all committees. With all my respect, I said in the first beginning, before approving the agenda, that it is a very tight one, and we've empowered the leadership to change the agenda in which it was not changed. Now the reporters can stay, and you can pay overtime for them. It is not an excuse that the translators will leave, and so we have to finish very quickly. This is unacceptable in a decision-making session.
I think, moderator.
I was asked to comment on this. We have a contract with the translators till 7:30. We can manage Spanish translation longer. That is what is available for us tonight. The buses are ready to take us at 8 o'clock or later, but we create a problem if we spend much more time than after 8 o'clock.
Dear moderator, Your Grace, I would like us, when there are complications, to follow the previous policies. We can authorize now our Secretary General to present in the next meeting of the executive to clarify our relation of the WCC and the Global Christian Forum. Thank you.
Okay, the recommendations in item 3.
Item number 3, the recommendations read as follows. The Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee, A, recommends that adequate resourcing be allocated for the analysis, development, and implementation of methodologies of accompaniment for young people in the lead up to and between decision-making meetings of the WCC, including but not limited to a mentor program. B, ECHOS should be consulted in integrating the work of the youth with the WCC. C, a pilgrim visit should include Ecumenical Disability Advocates Network. And D, request the Executive Committee to review the plan to publish a book on religion and violence and continue to work on this issue.
Microphone 4.
I'm Father Jack Khalil from the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch and all the East. Actually, I was surprised to see this recommendation about this book because we discussed this issue in depth, and we voted 2 times. I remember we voted, and all the cards were orange that this book shall not appear for good reasons. and we asked the document about religion and violence that should have been sent to the executive committee according to the decisions of the last central committee. We asked to send it again to this reference group or to the executive committee, the document, and that to consult about it with the churches. And I'm aware that it was rejected in a meeting before Nairobi. It was also rejected by the representative of my church who was there. So the book, it was not recommended to be sent to the executive committee. It was voted unanimously not to be published. And also we made a remark, an important remark, that the thoughts and ideas that were unacceptable in the previous religious and violence document not to be included again in any new document because they caused the document to be rejected. So I have two requests, if you allow me. First of all, to correct about publishing this book, and second, to make sure that the thoughts and ideas that were included in the rejected document not to be included again in any other document, and to send this document to the reference advisory group to be consulted with churches or to the executive committee. Thank you.
Moderator, if I may respond to that. Yes, this discussion did take place. We actually had quite a lengthy discussion on the situation, but we did not come to a conclusion in terms of the position. We also, as the program committee, all the absolute information before us in terms of this, to verify anything. So is that the way we should actually present this should be in a more cautious way. And that is why, taking what has been said, we use the word that we're referring it to the executive committee, and two, we are saying to them to review the plan, because we are mindful that there's a discussion taking place, which we don't have all the information to, and therefore we left it in the hands of the executive committee. So this is a very neutral way in terms of taking this discussion and passing on for further investigation.
Moderator, if you allow me, an action was taken. We voted, and we are present here, the members of this committee, and unanimously we decided not to publish the book. Now, if you later had some information that we didn't discuss in the program committee, it's something else. I cannot decide about it. I cannot take any action. What is legal is the action that was taken in the program committee, and it should be mentioned. Did you vote or not? It should be mentioned in the report.
No, he's saying, sir, that that this vote that he's referring to has taken place elsewhere, where the book was rejected.
Microphone 3.
Yes, I can understand. I will not discuss the comments. I have a proposal to amend D, so we can go from this lock which we have. The main issue is two sides. The first side, who's going to publish this book, which is not referred, and the second issue is the substance of the context of the book. So my proposal is request the executive committee to review the plan and the substance to publish a book by the Faith and Order Commission on religion and violence. Then we will know who is going to publish this. It is somebody from inside the house, and we know that the executive committee can see the substance and the plan of that book, if it is inconsistent with our fellowship or no.
We would be happy to include that.
All right, microphone 4.
Is it me? Theodora from the Syrian Orthodox Patriarchate. There was one point that was mentioned in the meeting, and I would like to reiterate, because it seems that something is lost in the translation or discussion. In October 2016, we were asked as churches to come up with a proposal or with responses to the paper, and we have sent those responses, but I couldn't see them in the paper. Whatever our church has worked on, they put a team, and they have really, and from different parts of the world in order to come up with this, but nothing happened. It didn't go in there. And I have mentioned this, and I didn't get the proper answer to this. So if we are going to consult the churches, we need to take what the churches are giving you into account before we submit anything to the Central Committee, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Thank you, moderator. I'm sorry that we bring this discussion from program committee to this space because a lot of information would be needed in order to really understand what this all is about. But I want to say that I fully understand the frustration that is expressed here, and I think we should take notice of that. What I would suggest now that we didn't come to a decision about this book, but what became clear that there is no consensus about publishing this book. So my proposal is now to rephrase number D, request the executive committee, request that the plan to publish a book is dismissed. Yet, the work on religion and violence continues. That allows us to express, I believe, that there was some strong voices expressing that this idea that was brought up to the program committee, presented to the program committee, that idea was basically that didn't find consensus, let me put it like that. But that was not, these voices were not saying, we don't want to talk about religion and violence. We want to talk about religion and violence. In addition to that, Dr. Cuevas, I'm sorry to say, but the idea to now just throw it to Faith and Order Commission is not a good idea, and is also not something that we should discuss here, because we don't have the time to do that. And I'm absolutely against that. Not that I don't want Faith and Order to do that, but I feel for Faith and Order that they all of a sudden Central Committee decides do something on religion and violence. If we have not even consulted with Faith and Order, we shouldn't do that. That's not a wise step.
Microphone 3.
On my recommendation, because if you want me to go into details why I put this, I can't go into details. I'm not ashamed of telling anything. There was sometimes books which was published was not going with our ideology nor with our theology. I don't want to bring names on the floor, and because of that, somebody in which we have trust, which is the Faith and Order Commission, has at least to supervise these kind of books in which it is still a non-agreement, especially between the committee, the members of the committee or the program committee. Because of that, I wanted to go out from this lock issue by suggesting that if you want, instead of publishing, to be reviewed by the Faith and Order, I don't mind. But Faith and Order must be there because of the theological context, which may be in the book.
Can I respond directly to that, moderator? Because if there is no book, we don't have to refer the issue to Faith and Order. You understand? Aude?
I understand, but there is still a book.
There is no book.
There is a book.
No.
Then cancel all the paragraph. Then cancel all the paragraph.
Yeah, this is what we tried to explain, that there was some frustration expressed in the program committee. And these people feel that this needs to be expressed, and I think that is a fair demand. If you like it or not, that's not the question. But if we, as a program committee, want to present it like that, then please allow us to present it like that. You can vote against it, of course, or you can turn it down. But please I want you to understand there is no book.
May I say something from the program? It's a book in our original version, because it was very clear in our discussion that a special book in the background could not be accepted by the information we had in our committee. It was only the question of there would be a book, not the book. So you see it here in our original text. And we had not enough information about the whole case, so we revised it to the executive committee. Not to do a hidden publishing of a book, but to have everything, every information, and then see if it is helpful to do a book with a collection of different voices, different perspectives, different experiences, or not. That was the idea during our discussions in the program committee.
Microphone
Yes.
4.
Thank you. I'm happy with the solution that Fernando now offered, although we wrote together yesterday a paragraph that unfortunately we didn't have the opportunity to write it in the evening, last evening. But we wrote together and we expressed together that we decided the book not to be published. But I'm happy with this solution. Still, we have to add something, that the thoughts and ideas expressed in the previous document shall not be repeated again. And also, we discussed this with Mrs. Dr. Firi and in the committee to avoid falling in the same problem again. So please add something about this issue.
Moderator, that is also asking for something different. I mean, the proposal that Fernando came up with is actually quite good because, A, there is not a published book. So what we're basically saying in that proposal is that the intention of publishing the book be dismissed. And I think that actually takes care of it, but you are also pointing about the
Something
thoughts.
else. Some thoughts and ideas. The Central Committee was upset with the previous document, and we discussed it a lot, and we recommended it to be reconsidered in the Executive Committee, which unfortunately didn't happen. So we just now paying the attention of the reference group or the Central Committee not to include again the same ideas, insulting the evangelists, insulting the apostles, insulting Christianity in general, and showing Christianity as a violent religion from its very beginning. This is everything we're asking.
General Secretary.
I think at this point it is two things that are clear with this proposal. One is that the work on religion and violence is a theme that we will continue to work on, and that there is no book or there is no plan of publishing a book. The comments that are shared here are received, but I don't see that they have to be formulated in a decision of the Central Committee because it's not quite clear what you're talking about, but it is clear enough that these are the concerns and they will be taken notice of.
I'm referring to something that we discussed yesterday. So if our time was wasted in vain, I will be really disappointed. This was discussed, and Mrs. Fear was present, and she agreed with this solution. We doesn't want these ideas to be repeated again. That's everything.
That's my point. That is heard, and it will be taken notice of. But it's difficult to formulate that in a decision.
One sentence that we don't want to repeat the same rejected ideas and thoughts that existed in the previous document.
Moderator, can I make a suggestion? I think we understand the sentiments that is being expressed, and I would think maybe it might be more appropriate because this is about dealing with the issue of a publication of a book, which is dismissed.
No. The document will be sent again to the reference advisory group and to the executive committee. I'm not talking about the book. The book.
Yes, but you're talking about something.
A new document.
You're talking about not entertaining the thoughts expressed in that book.
No,
in another way.
Forget about the book, okay?
All right.
We are sending the document again to the reference group or to the executive committee. We're just paying the attention of those people not to have the same ideas repeated there that caused the document to be rejected.
He doesn't want to send it to the
All
executive
right.
committee?
Microphone 3.
Perhaps I can compromise with Bernardo by changing only the word of work. Yet the discussion on religion and violence continue. Because work is a general phrase in which anything can happen while you are working. So, and repeat the all other. This means that the book is dismissed. There will be no new documents. There will be only discussion on the issue, which is permitted due inside the fellowship. If my Father, my brother-in-law, my my brother will accept that. I think that we can go out from this lock.
Moderator, you did not allow me to finish what I was trying to say. I was saying that we can accept this proposal as it is.
Anyway, I'm happy.
But what you have shared, again, just allow me to finish. What you have shared can certainly go in the minutes. So it's taken care of in terms of the future
many
discussion.
things that were not included in the report, and I regret that. So do you want me to trust that they will be shared in the minutes? In the report that we corrected twice, until now I don't find many things that we discussed. So anyway,
but your view
I'm happy that I made this point very clear, because it is related to our faith, to our gospel, to our history. And I trust if this document will be discussed again among churches, we will be careful not to include anything rejectable again.
Mike? Yeah, all right.
I think our Secretary General proposed to get into account for more consideration the points of Father Iakovos. You remember in Jamaica, for 10 years there was this campaign for not violence, and we consider violence and community, violence and family, violence and creation. We failed to have the theme violence and state, and now we have to deal with this slowly.
All right, thanks. Let's move on. So we have now the proposal that's before us. If you'll receive these recommendations, will you show the card? All right, thank you very much. All right.
Moderator, number 4 is just actually, if we could just make a correction, there's no D. D was really the sort of recommendation, and this particular document is only for information to the committee, so there's no action we have to take. So we can move then to 5. The recommendation there is just summarized. 1, the Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee receive the midterm evaluation report with appreciation with the above comments and approves the general direction.
Will you show your cards if you are ready to receive this? Thank you.
Number 6, recommendations on the strategic plan. Based on the recommendations of the midterm evaluation and review by the staff leadership group, the Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee A approve the proposed WCC strategic plan for the period 2018 to 2021. B, recommend to the General Secretary that strategic objective indicators for the period 2018 to 2021 be further developed for review by the Executive Committee at its meeting in November 2018. C, direct that the programmatic objectives and indicators for 2018 to 2021 be further developed, building on the 2018 plans for review by the Executive Committee at its meeting in November 2018. D, request the General Secretary to continue working with staff to develop the strategies and methods of achievement that engage member churches and ecumenical partners more fully in the life and work of the WCC. E, call on the Executive Committee to monitor the Strategic Plan 2018 to 2021, reporting to the Central Committee in 2020 on the implementation of the WCC Strategic Plan. And F, the WCC Strategic Plan include the issues of refugees, migrants, and stateless people and their intersections with racism from both local and global dimensions.
All right, if you're ready to receive these recommendations, show your cards. Thank you very much. Very good.
Moderator, in section 7, there's a mistake there. That word recommendations is actually part of the summary of the document. So we're not looking at that. If we can just make sure that that's a mistake. We move straight then to the recommendations at the end of the page. The Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee A, receives the report with appreciation. B, agree that a pre-assembly event of the Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace be planned in North America. C, request the Assembly Planning Committee to prepare the Assembly in the spirit, ethos, and praxis of the PJP as a meeting point and a pause to celebrate, share, reflect, envision common goals, and plan together with fellow pilgrims on the way. D, develop further the role of the pilgrim team visit in the Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace. And E, call on members of the Central Committee to organize pilgrim team visits in their own countries. F in the next page. Agree that invitations with more concrete guidelines and ideas on how to participate in pilgrimage of justice and peace be sent to member churches and other churches and partners.
If you receive these recommendations, will you show the card? Okay, thank you very much.
Right, moderator, the next one, section 8, actually was one of the longest discussions in our committee work, the ecumenical diaconia documents 6.02 and 6.03. And there's a load of comments on that, which members can take notice of. But the recommendation is as follows. The program committee recommends that the Central Committee acknowledge the document as a working document and request that the comments from the program committee be duly considered. Refer it to the executive committee for further consultation and work, and bring it back to the 2020 Central Committee. Those dashes should not be there.
Microphone 4.
Moderator, thank you. I just wanted to say that because of the discussions through all of this period of our meeting, I think that before this document would be sent to executive committee, it must be sent for reviewing to committee for consensus and collaboration.
Microphone 4.
Father Philaret is right, because we raised this issue yesterday. We didn't understand how this document came to the program committee without passing by the executive committee, without being sent to the central committee. And also, I have some remarks on the report now, because something is missing there. First, we read in the introduction, preamble at the end, that this document will serve as document information or background information by the WCC in some activities of the WCC, but we didn't recommend that. Actually, this preamble was not discussed today. We didn't see it. It was written after our meeting. Okay, but I want to say that we didn't recommend this document to be used, first of all. And one other issue, at the end of the document, at the end of the report, you added the names of those who participated in it. And yesterday we made it clear that Mr. Dean Triandafilu didn't participate. So we cannot, and no one asked another Orthodox theologian to participate in this committee. So we cannot mention the name of Mr. Dean Triandafilu just to corroborate the document. It's not correct to mention his name here. And also regarding the appendix, yesterday when we read the report, we asked to add a missing sentence from the report, that we still have some remarks on the recommendation proposed by the reference group for diaconia. And you wrote the sentence, Jerry, and now it's missing, that we still have remarks on those proposed recommendations. So please, can we just return the sentence at the end as you wish it to appear at the end after the proposal? On point 6 and this point K, the document was called by the program committee a working paper, and many members refused to call it a study guide. I'm not talking about the document called study guide. We cannot refer to this document as a study guide. Many participants wanted it to be just a working paper. Thank you.
Microphone 3.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Of course, I raised this issue through the first plenary, and here I am really a little bit astonished. it was mentioned that this document was distributed to the churches. And it seems from the text which we have in the preambles that it was not distributed to the churches. Although it was seen, the study document, and not the whole document, by the two executive committees of June and November of 2017. Nevertheless, this document was tested by some ecumenical strategic partners between churches, ACT alliances, between South Regional Seminar in South Korea, at a working workshop during the Arusha conference, and at the Bread of the Word workshop. I don't want to go into details about the document itself, and because of that, I've done a concrete proposals to change in the recommendations. And here I am referring to recommendation number 1, acknowledge the document as a working document so as to be shared with the member churches for feedback. So I am adding this to the first one. I don't have problem with the second, third, and fourth recommendation, but I am proposing another 2 ones. The document must not be publicly, because it was already a mistake when I raised that attachment to an email. So I hope that this will be also a recommendation. And the last recommendation, so as to always to have trust in our staff and in our governing bodies, whenever there is a joint document with partners, we have to emphasize that the WCC is a fellowship and not a coalition. When we are a fellowship, we can't agree in a document which is shared with some of our partners and to start to work on it outside without this document having been approved by the fellowship itself. Which in this case, it seems that it was published, discussed outside without still the approval of the major governing body of the WCC. So I hope, so as to finish from this diverse and crucial issue, that the committee will accept the corrections of the recommendations and the 2 recommendations which I've added. Thank you.
Microphone 4.
Moderator, I just made a proposal and I don't see any feedback and reactions. I made a concrete proposal for recommendation and it was not included.
For what?
So the proposal was to send this document to committee for consensus and collaboration.
And now, yeah, they must put a day. Moderator, if I may respond. I think with regards to the use of the document, yes. As you know, this is a joint document, a joint initiative. And it was said to us that while some people may not be able to use it because it's not in its finalized form and they obviously have some challenges with the content, others actually will find it useful for them to be able to use it because it is work in progress. And to allow this document to be used is going to be helpful for those who are already seriously involved in the ACANO work. So that discussion actually took place in the committee, and so that's where we actually left that. We do accept that we did agree on a working document, working paper, and the word study guide to be changed. We did some editing. This is unfortunately not the final copy that was sent. We had some problems, so that has actually been attended to. So that we will certainly sort out and ensure. And then the appendix, yes, you did certainly ask us to put a line at the end. We did not put that. We will certainly see that that is included.
Can put it now.
We will do it. We will certainly do it. I mean, we'll ensure it is there.
Okay.
And then I think the other comments were in terms of the process of the consultation. And I mean, certainly that is for us to decide how we would proceed with that. As far as Dr. Kovas's amendments are suggested, to add after a working document so as to be shared with member churches for feedback, no problems with that. And then he also spoke about the fact that it must not be published publicly. It is for this House to decide on that. And we'll that the WCC is a fellowship and not a coalition, that's something that we can discuss as well.
Microphone 3.
Anders Weirud, Church of Sweden. I'm not opposing any of these proposals. I just want to comment on the issue about some of the churches. We have heard many witnesses from different church families and traditions, and myself being active in a church that always has been very transparent. As soon as we receive a letter that is not a pastoral letter and linking to a pastoral issue, it is of course public. So you should just know that. That's the way it works in many of the churches, that if we get a letter, it is public. Anyone can see it. But I think we can live with that.
Microphone 4.
Yes. I have a quick question first. If we deleted the name of Mr. Triandafilu, who didn't participate in this work, at the end.
Yes, Moderator, we were not the ones who were responsible for that. That's absolutely fine. But I think we need to say that when that names were put, they were basically naming the people who were actually tasked in terms of the job.
He refused to participate anyway.
Well, he did not participate, but he was a member. But I mean, if that's what you feel, we have no objections of you removing the name.
Anyway, now regarding what you said about allowing some churches to use this document, indeed, Mrs. Berit yesterday said we can use it in our internal work. We said yes, we cannot forbid anyone to study anything he wants. But in the preamble, it's written that the WCC will use this document. And since some churches members in the WCC are not yet satisfied, we cannot use it. And we didn't discuss it. We didn't accept this yesterday. So can we delete any mention of WCC using this document, please?
Moderator, what the speaker is referring to is obviously the summary of the document. And that actually is in the document.
Can we read it? And
so
see
I'm
what
not sure
to
whether
change?
we are in order to delete that, but if that is what is being requested. Isabel Piri wants to help us with this because she's part of that conversation.
The General Secretary first.
This is a conversation that belongs to our consensus process. How do we build up a consensus on an important issue like this? And we learn from this process some mistakes, but also something we can be more aware of for the future. But there are two things I would like to make clear, and that is that there is no document that can be published as a WCC document unless there is a process behind it that makes it a WCC policy document. But there are many documents in our work that we discuss here and there and use them for different purposes, but they don't have the status of as a WCC document. And we cannot start a censorship and saying that there are documents that we have to hide and nobody can read them. But I think this formulation you have here, that it is a working document, make it clear that it is not a finalized official policy of the WCC, but it is part of a discussion. And with that, I think it's possible to continue the process and to continue to try to find also a wider consensus about diaconia in our fellowship.
Thank you very much, Moderator. I just wanted to point out that the summaries that he was referring to, actually for the whole document, these are the summaries that the moderator of the program committee actually read at the plenary session. So there's nothing hidden here. It was read to everyone in this room. That's number one. Number two, it's just to say that, the diaconia document is in two sections. there's the main document, and then there's a study guide. So sometimes, we seem to be confusing how we are referring to the two, that the study guide is a companion of the main document. And number 3, on the reference group on ecumenical diaconia, you may wish to know that Mr. Dean was actually invited and he responded positively, but he didn't come to the meeting. So if he was invited and he accepted but did not come to the meeting, we cannot say that he was not a member of the group. And you may also want to know that Dr. Karin is actually a theologian.
Microphone 4.
Moderator, I think our life will be easier if we just change these points and we will put recommendation to send it to the permanent committee as a first step, and afterward all the others. And so it will probably make it easier.
All right, microphone 1.
On this point about the name, I happen to serve on the board of that agency, and whether he was invited or not, he was not part of the process that produced this document, and therefore the name needs to be deleted because it gives the impression of participation in the development of the document.
Microphone 3.
Thank you, moderator. To the same question. I think the whole discussion right now is about the fact that the participation of Orthodox theologians in drafting this document was very low. Dean Giantofilo did not show up, although he has a theological background. And Dr. Nazarian, sorry to say, he is doctor of biology, and he's medical doctor, but he's not a theologian. And we had a very extensive discussion with him on that, and that he felt a little bit handicapped working on this commission, being not theologian and not being able to take into account all the nitty-gritties of the Orthodox theology. And so I think it's appropriate at this point to accept the recommendation that we had from the floor to forward this document to the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration, so that the specifics of Orthodox theology and interests of Orthodox member churches would be taken into account.
All right, now you have these proposed recommendations before you. If you're ready to receive these proposed recommendations as they're now before you, would you show the card?
Oh, good.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, moderator. Moving then to item number 9, the recommendation. The Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee receive the document with appreciation and approve the general direction presented in the document.
This is the document on global health strategy. Microphone 4.
I just want to make sure that we made the change in point K. We deleted study guide and replaced it with working paper, point K.
Yes, we will do that. They can do it on the screen right now.
It was pointed out that this document is a study guide, just to make sure that we changed it, please. No,
it's gone back here.
That will be done. That will be done. Okay, microphone 2.
Prevention is better than cure. We can put as a principle that anything which is contrary to the teaching of the Bible and to the Christian principle is not acceptable to be considered by anybody in this place.
Okay, now if you're ready to receive the recommendation on the global health strategy, will you show your cards? We have a blue card or two. So microphone 3.
Russian Orthodox Church. I would like to state that I have some reservations about point D. where they recommend the indigenous notion of healing need to be included as a common contribution of the indigenous people. I really value the contribution of indigenous people, but unfortunately, sometimes these methods and traditions of healing are connected to popular beliefs, to shamanism, and many other things which are really can create problems for us as Christian organization. We can be accused of doing some kind of syncretism at this point. So probably we need to define better this recommendation. Just to say the notions which are not contrary to Christian beliefs could be taken in consideration and seen as really enrichment to our work. Thank you.
Moderator.
Microphone 4.
Cynthia Kent, United Methodist, USA, English. I'm indigenous, and all of that healing and medicine comes from God. Comes from God. Didn't come from no pagan, didn't come from anything else. It came from our Creator. It's the same God that all of you worship. So when you say that, it hurts my people to say that they are not believers in God. So we need to keep that in because it affirms that they are children of God as well. Thank you.
Thanks. And the recommendation is simply the recommendation of the last sentence. And this is what earlier you mostly indicated with your cards you were ready to do. You really want to keep having discussion? All right, we have 3 people at the microphone. Microphone 4.
Thank you. I would like to ask the rapporteur about the sentence that you promised to add it on the paragraph with the theological background from the New Testament, and you took a note of it, but it's not anymore added here.
Moderator, if I can respond to that. My colleague was taking those information, as you know. She couldn't get the information. She tried to set you out to get the details, but she was not able to get from you. We can still include that detail. He gave us special text from the New Testament that he felt needed to be included, which we were glad to do, but she did not get the exact information. So we can still do that.
Okay.
Microphone 1.
That's that. Moderator, for the sake of clarity, because I think there is an obscurity, and we as Westerns, more or less Westernized here, we used to be very, very advanced in our formulation of our notions. About this matter of healing, are we supposed to have this recommendation as a pharmaceutic, as a biological or whatever else, chemical or whatever expertise, recommending methods of healing through plants, herbs, whatever it is? This is not our matter, because here we are not expertise on that in this field. If it refers on psychosomatic, that is to say the healing of body and soul, this is another aspect. But are we the ones who are going to impose what kind of healing a person should follow? This is not our task here. Our task is to approve that the healer of body and soul is Jesus Christ through his sacraments and through his divine grace. All this is out of our task. We became advocates, judges, whatever else, and now we became medical doctors as well.
Moderator, I wonder if I could say something that can help, because we really don't want to get involved in another discussion on the subject, because I can assure you that this was a long and robust discussion in the committee. And we realized that it was not something that we could come to conclusions about, because there are variations of different views on the subject. There's the Western perspective, there is the African perspective, there is different church traditions, and it's not something that we could have actually resolved in one meeting. So that is why, moderator, if you look at the E part, point E says a wider understanding and discussion on healing needs to be undertaken. In our discussion, we realized that there is differences of opinion and there's further dialogue that needs to happen on this whole understanding of healing. And therefore, we created a point E to facilitate for that. I'm not sure, because I would like to say that this is a big subject, and I don't think we can continue to reopen the discussion here that took place in the committee. But to understand, this is a subject that has a lot of differences of views. And if we can register that and see that E is an opportunity to indicate that and create facility for discussion, then maybe we should accept it as it is.
All right, you already indicated overwhelmingly with your orange cards that you're ready to receive this report. Can we receive this report, please? All right.
Not with the
there are some blue cards. All right, microphone 1.
I'm sorry. But are you asking us to adopt this change? Number D, the indigenous notion of healing not contrary to Christian belief? Are you?
No, to the original.
The original text. Okay, thank you. Orange.
Microphone 2.
Your Grace Moderator, I like to remind you that they are going to close the restaurants at the hotel.
Precisely.
So we have to go now and
Thank
to come
you.
tomorrow 1 hour earlier to carry on.
No, can't. Sorry. We're going to fast. All right, microphone 4.
You know, in my church, such recommendations will be accepted very negatively. So if there is no any consensus on this, we cannot say that the Central Committee recommends, because at least me and some other members do not recommend this. So I think that if there is no consensus in Central Committee on this issue, we should erase everything which is not on the consensus. So I would erase the point D completely.
Sorry, may I say something from the committee? That is no recommendation. It is no recommendation. It's only the minute about the discussion that had taken place in our committee. And you cannot forbid people to think in a special way. So it's really necessary to hear the different voices. You cannot delete a voice that you heard in a discussion. You can say it's not mine, but you have to see, to listen, and to be aware of the different experiences, perspectives, traditions, and understandings. That was our, maybe not the best one, but we tried to document the whole variety of our opinions. And that is the background of the necessary discussions we have to do. And that's really far away from our recommendations. Please note that.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Moderator. I remind all of us that the recommendation is that the Central Committee receive the document with appreciation and approve the general direction presented in the document. That is enough to continue a process discussing all the issues we have now on the table. But I urge you to stop the discussion now. Otherwise, there will be reports that some committee are not able to deal with in this meeting, and that is a critical point for the organization. But this conversation we have now will be continued in this plan. So please stop this discussion and approve the recommendation. We will continue this conversation.
Okay, thank you. So will you show your cards? This is just the recommendation. Thank you. Now we're going to move on
to 10.
Conference on Mission and Evangelism.
Yes, Conference on Mission and Evangelism report. Straight to the recommendations at the bottom of the page. The Program Committee recommends that the Central Committee A, receive the report and a Arusha call to discipleship with appreciation. Agree that Global Ecumenical Theological Institute should be included as a model ecumenical formation held in conjunction with the Assembly.
All right. If you receive this report, show your cards. Thank you very much.
There's a blue card.
Microphone 1.
Thank you. To just points of procedure, please. First, I think the past message that was given is a good lesson to us in the future, that we need to distinguish between what was a note of what the committee did and what we are to discuss here. We cannot discuss historically what a committee did. A lot of what we've been doing here, and that's the question I asked about an hour and a half ago that I wasn't responded to. We are discussing what people spoke about, and that is their prerogative. All we need to discuss is the recommendations. The second thing is, as we keep going, and I say this in the greatest of love, tolerance is getting less, and we're just pushing things through now. And I don't know how healthy that is. We're trying to get through a workload that is not in the spirit of this House, neither will it reflect the spirit of this session. So I don't know how the leadership committee would want to deal with that, but we are now in a precarious position of trying to balance time, productivity, and actual representative outcomes of what this House is supposed to stand for, which in the past 20 minutes, I haven't really been seeing. So I put that to the chair and the leadership committee to see how we deal with this productively and positively.
Okay, we're now ready for the commission reports, and we will try to figure out how to handle what Archbishop Angelos has just said.
Moderator, straight then to the proposal recommendation. The program committee recommends that the Central Committee receive with appreciation the summary reports of the commissions, and it names the commissions. I don't need to read them again.
Okay. All right. If you're ready to receive this, show your card. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the report.
Thank you, Program Committee. The next one is the Committee on Governance and Nominations.
Yes. Kindly allow me to be the first to greet you with good evening. Kalispera sas, dobry večer, guten Abend, bonsoir. We are. Well, I have to get good mood in here, Your Grace, Your Eminence. Yes. Okay, I had a superlative committee. They were wonderful. They were outstanding to work with. And I would like you to thank them all at once without naming anybody, the staff, the members, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Are you going to put this on the... This is Gen Nam 06. It'll be very quick, don't worry. Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, we're going to just the action points and not anything else that's inside the report. Although I would urge you to read our commendations on both the moderators and general secretary's reports. I think that they deserve the praise that was given to them. So if we go to the first action point, I would ask you to turn to page 3 of 9, letter C, the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration. And the Bishop Dr. Christoph Mainz from the Evangelische Kirche in Deutschland to replace Reverend Jan Janssen from the same church. The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve the replacement.
Will you show your cards? Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Very good. And then if we turn the page and we go on to number 2, consultative bodies, and if we go to A, the Commission on Faith and Order, His Grace Bishop Kevork Saroyan from the Armenian Apostolic Church, the Mother See of Holy Echmiadzan, to replace the Reverend Father Tiran Petrosian from the same church. The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve the replacement.
Show your cards. Thank you.
And the next one, B, Commission of the Churches on International Affairs, CCIA, and there is a listing here. The listing was taken verbatim from the document which was given to us, and the Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve these replacements. Bravo, Tiorea. Very nice. You are as good as my committee was. Thank you so much. And we go on to page 5, letter C, Commission on World Mission and Evangelism. The names are before you, the replacements that have been made. The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve these replacements. Do you approve them? Thank you. Wonderful. D, Commission on Education and Ecumenical Formation. His Grace Bishop Hovakim Manayukan from the Armenian Apostolic Church, Mother See of Holy Echmidzian, to replace His Grace Bishop Georg Saroyan from the same church. The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve this replacement. Do you approve? Thank you. Thank you very much. Moderator, Madam Moderator, I hope you will not mind my expediting this by asking the questions. Thank you. Thank you. I know. We go on to E, letter E, joint consultative group between the WCC and Pentecostal churches. The name has been put forward. Who's going to be replaced? The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee, that's you, approve these replacements. Do you approve? Thank you. A question?
Question.
Where's the question?
I have the impression, I'm in agreement with the recommendation,
Yes.
but Jorge Vaccaro is not a member or representative of the Iglesia Cristiana Bíblica. Mr. Petreca was. Mr. Vaccaro is member of the Pentecostal Church of God. It's a different member church.
Okay. Pentecostal Church abroad. Okay, do you have that? Yes. It was, yes, this already came to us. It was handed down to us, yes?
Before approval, that the other church agreed. This is a crucial question, and we have to obey the bylaws. It was easy in the nomination committee to pass because it was the same church, which is their own right.
Yes.
So we are asking the administration, the secretariat, the two churches agreed between themselves? If yes, then it will go. Otherwise, it will stay until the next meeting.
If we have the representatives of those churches here, perhaps they could enlighten us on this point.
Hablo en español y ustedes no sé si tienen traducción o no. Yo lo que quiero decir es que falleció el pastor Héctor Vaccaro, el reverendo Héctor Petreca de la Iglesia Cristiana Bíblica. Y las iglesias de Argentina propusieron.
There is no translation. Please.
Oh, okay.
Quiero compartir con ustedes que ante el fallecimiento del pastor Héctor Petreca de la Iglesia Cristiana Bíblica, las iglesias de Argentina que forman parte del Consejo Mundial de Iglesia proponemos al reverendo Jorge Julio Vaccaro de la Asociación de la Iglesia de Dios. Tiene el aval de las iglesias de allá.
Pastor Petreca have passed away. This is. And the member churches of the World Council of Churches in Argentina, all of them have agreed that Jorge Vaccaro be his replacement, although he belongs to the Asociación La Iglesia de Dios.
Does everybody agree? And memory eternal. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Okay, we then move on to number 3, advisory bodies. A, Constitution and Rules Working Group. And here we have something that was handed down to us from the PCCC, recommending a text from the Executive Committee. The text is here before you. I can read it if you so please. Otherwise, the Governance and Nominations Committee recommended that the Central Committee name a working group on Constitution and Rules. And as we go down, we will present the names that we came forward with. It was the group would report to the, we added this mandate to it, that the group would report to the executive committee and to the central committee through the general secretary. Then we have that we agree that the small membership group should consist of 4 people and need to start working very soon in order to be able to expedite all of their work by the following meeting of the Central Committee, which is going to be in 2020. Note, perfect vision, 2020. So we'll have a wonderful meeting at that time. And therefore, we need the qualifications for this group are extremely important because balances are not our concern per se. The question at hand is who has the expertise and the experience, because someone needs to know how the Constitution and rules function within this body and all of its constituent bodies. And so we have taken liberty in putting forth the following names because of their expertise and experience. Mrs. Anne Glynn McCool to be the moderator of this group, Dr. Aude Coas, Archbishop Dr. Chibuzo Rafael Opoko, and Archbishop Joris Verkamen. Would you be in agreement to receive this as they were recommended by us? Thank you very much. Very nice. B, Steering Committee for the Real Estate Development. And then we have all of the quotes that were taken directly out of the text, the explanations that were given to us, how these people were selected to work on this committee. And I will read this. The explanation was given that this committee was formed on the basis of expertise in law, in finance, and in real estate, and not our criteria of broad representation, namely region, gender, and confession. And so that's how we got these names that were put forward above. And the Governance and Nominations Committee, with these explanations, recommends that the Central Committee appoint these advisors to the Steering Committee. Again, the Steering Committee for Real Estate Development. Would you be so kind as to agree with this? Thank you very much. It's most kind of you. And then we go on to Roman numeral 3, documents B, A, Gen Nom 3, the Code of Conduct for Governing Bodies, Commissions, Consultative, and Advisory Bodies. And the committee proposes, and we have the proposals here. Would you like me to read them for you, or can you read them for yourselves in the documents you have before you? You want me to read them to you? No, okay. Very good. So we received this document with appreciation because it was already proposed. Then we go on with B. B, this is the WCC Child Safeguarding Policy. The committee received the document and proposed that the boxed action note be amended to read, the Central Committee is asked to approve the policy for use by the WCC. With this abridged introduction in the boxed note, the Governance and Nominations Committee recommends that the Central Committee approve the document. Do you agree with this? Thank you. Very good. Then we have C, which is Gen Nom 05, seat allocation for the 11th Assembly, and we know that this can be a very delicate and or sensitive issue. And so the committee extensively discussed the report of the Assembly Planning Committee and agreed by consensus to recommend that the Central Committee endorse the recommendations of the Assembly Planning Committee. Would you be so inclined as to endorse the recommendations? Muchas gracias. El gusto es mío, por favor. Then we go on. Then there was one annotation that we did make, and that is that point 3, there was a term that was used, encourage the churches. We feel that we should urge them. So would you be in agreement also with that? It's a nice change. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. D, Gen 06, the report of the reports, plural, of the Permanent Committee on Consensus and Collaboration. And there was a discussion which delved into the fair and adequate representation. And we have listed here for you in their totality paragraphs 54 and 55. And please do note, since we were talking about 2 documents, we are giving you the dates of that particular meeting and the place of the meeting so that you know exactly which half of the report is we are talking about. So here you have before you 54, and you have before you 55. And we decided here that we would accept them as presented. So then we went on to fair and adequate, and then following this is now number 2, fair and adequate, from the meeting which was held in Germany, the 6th through 10th of May. A is very important. Following extensive discussion on paragraph 54 on page 20, not the same 54 as before, decided not to recommend to the Central Committee the proposal of the PCCC with regard to increasing the age to 35 for youth. And it was the youth themselves that were against this proposal. So we recommend that this not come before you. Then the Government's Nomination Committee recommends to the Central Committee that Rule 4.1.2 be amended to reduce the percentage of delegates who shall be both nominated and elected by member churches from 85% of the number of delegates to the Assembly to 80%, and that Rule 4.1.3 be amended to increase the percentage of delegates who shall be elected by certain member churches upon nomination of the Central Committee to 20%, that is 20% from 15%, in order to increase the possibilities for achieving target balances. It will reduce much of the friction following the Assembly. So would you be so inclined as to accept this proposal? Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Bravo. Letter C, the Governance and Nominations Committee further recommends to the Central Committee that the Constitution and Rules Working Group study this proposal and prepare a change for the Central Committee meeting in 2020. So this is something that we just recommend to you at this point. Would you agree to this? Very good, because we have no choice but to expedite this so that it can be done in time for the Assembly. And we have letter D, the last one in this particular section. The Governance and Nominations Committee recommends to the Central Committee to propose the changes underlined in this paragraph. And this has been done for the sake of consistency in fair and adequate language. And the only change is, it's used to say simply women and youth, and we have lifted from the other documents this underlined section so that it is all inclusive. That's the only change made there. With the inclusive nature of this inclusion, would you be willing to accept this? Vielen Dank, meine Herren und schönen Damen. Ganz gut. Okay, now we move on to number 3, document 0. Oh. I meant, oh.
Don't speak. Oh, I am a member of that committee. I am not changing. There was a print mistake, I think, in the first paragraph. Not prepare a change to discuss the issue, because by approving prepare a change, that means that the principle was approved by you, which was not approved by us. The 2080. The C. And discuss the issue and bring for the Central Committee meeting in 220. Not prepare a change.
I'm sorry. My mistake. Mea culpa. Dr. Audi Kawas is always on the mark, on the point. Now you know why we chose him for this committee. Thank you so much. Shukran. Okay, very good. So the approved to discuss, and so that it be sent forth to the meeting. Very good. Okay, I'm going too fast here.
No, this is not correct.
No,
this is not correct. The committee decided that it accepts to change from 85 to 80%, and it asked the committee to further develop what that means for the rules. But the policy is clearly decided in the committee. Yes.
Right. That is correct. Yes. No.
There was no decision in the committee to accept the principle of 80 to 20.
You were not there when
Yes,
it was
there
done.
was. Yes, there was.
You were not in the committee when the decision was made.
When I went to the public
Yes.
public issue.
Yes.
Yes. We took advantage.
Then I will not accept it during the changes of the rules.
The committee had to work when you were not there.
Surprisingly.
Sorry.
Anne.
The committee really needs to know whether this body approves the change in the ratios.
That's what I asked.
We can articulate how to do it in the rules, but the decision needs to be made right
Yes,
now.
which was precisely what I asked. Yes. Yes, yes. We approved, no? Yes? Si. Yes. Dada. Okay, we approved.
We are in a mess. This is a crucial issue. We are 58 persons in which the Central Committee has the right to appoint them, and not the member churches,
Yes.
which they affect negatively the representation of the churches.
No,
This
no,
is
no.
unfair.
No,
we
because
have to
it's-
discuss, not to go very quickly on this issue especially.
We discussed it
Now,
in
you
great
approved
length.
it, you approved it in the committee. I can understand why I'm not there, but here I am advocating that keep the issue to be discussed in the committee, which will look for the constitution. Give us a little bit field to work on that and to see what are the negative points and what are the positive points. Don't put us in a very difficult place in which we have to implement the decision of the Central Committee.
They come from the, yes, part of our discussion, for your enlightenment, is that we approve this. Why? Precisely because the names are still drawn from the pool of names given to us by the churches. And when the General Secretary will send out his letter to the churches, he will ask them to provide additional names above and beyond those that will be in the representative group, the delegation. Well, but you asked me to explain so they know. I'm explaining. This was handed down to us from the permanent committee, actually, yes.
All right, we have a couple of people at the microphone. Microphone 3, and then we'll do microphone 2.
As I was present in the committee and took part in the discussion, I just want to reiterate that the reasons was all the hassle that we have had when we are trying to meet the quotas. We have to do something. Otherwise, some of you remember the heavy criticism that was given to us in the nominations committee because you could not live up to the quotas last time in Trondheim. And the same thing it was in Busan. We have to do something about this. And that is the reason, or one of the reasons why we decided like this, and we meant that it was fair and adequate, that the churches should know what the rules are before they nominate their representatives to the assembly.
All right, microphone 2.
I agree with the Archbishop Emeritus. I was in the meeting the entire time. I'm sitting here listening to a report. There are a few things that I do have quarrels with, but because I was a member of the committee, I do not stand to object to them. There are some issues I don't remember us acting on that are in the report. However, I'm on the committee. I didn't bring that up. On this one, this is what we did. This is the action we took and the recommendation we make.
Thank you. Are you going to the microphone? No, okay. Very good. Dr. Kawas, you'd feel much better if you fan yourself with an orange card. Thank you. We have then below 3, document 06, the report of the PCC. This is that same issue about the youth in the assembly, but here you have the full paragraph in front of you in chronological order, and you can see what was taken out. If you look at the paragraph and you look at the word youth, what follows youth